She could have done good, but she always chose evil. She could have been benevolent. She could have been tolerant, but she chose the sword. She chose death. She chose to quench the truth. She chose to destroy tens of millions of people. For what? For political power? Yes, that's true. She never chose the gospel of Jesus Christ. She never chose love. She never chose charity. She never chose truth. Those words were never in the vocabulary of the Church of Rome. In fact, those words were outlawed wherever she ruled. But there were 4 areas of Europe that Rome could not conquer. She tried desperately, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, to conquer 4 specific areas of Europe, and she could not enter in and destroy them. And those 4 areas were the human mind, the human soul, the human spirit, and the conscience of Christians. No matter how hard she tried, she could not conquer those 4 areas. And last, we must say that the light shineth out of the darkness. There's never a better time to state that before the great and wonderful Reformation. For 1,000 years, the world lived in darkness, but God is always faithful. He never forsook his people. It seemed like he had forgotten them, but he did not. There were flickers of light that were faithful to the Lord Jesus Christ and were the constant target of Satan's armies. Those small flickers of light were incessantly being hunted down and stamped out. Yet their light could not be extinguished. No matter how hard Satan's armies tried to destroy the gospel, he could not do it. Why? Because Jesus Christ promised that the gates of hell could not prevail against his church. His church was marching on, constantly, forcefully, moving through the centuries and moving through the generations, and they were successful. These flickers of light, these wonderful flickers of light, were seen throughout the Dark Ages, and their names were many. Our forefathers have been called disparagingly heretics, Anabaptists, Waldenses, Vaudois, Albigenses, Valenses, Cathari, Gazzari, Petrini, Paterns. What does that mean? In the vulgar language of Latin, it meant the illiterate, the low-bred, the vulgar. That's what they called them. The scum of the earth. And yet, for us, they were God's shining light. The Winklers, those who gathered in secluded places. The Piedmontese, the Donatists, the Hussites, the Paulatians, the Novatians, the Berengarians, the Leonists, the Bogomils, the Arnoldists, the poor men of Lyons, the Petrobrusians and the Henricians. The list goes on and on and on of God's people rising up and living for Jesus Christ under the most horrible of circumstances. They lived in caves. They lived in the wilderness. They lived in the mountains and the valleys of the Piedmonts in Europe for 2 reasons. And I close with this. Number 1, to escape persecution, obviously. And number 2, to live faithfully for the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. Throughout this seemingly endless horror, a bright star appeared on the horizon. And that bright star's name was John Wycliffe, the morning star of the Reformation. And when he came on the scene, the world was never going to be the same again. And I have to tell you, we're going to stop our lecture there. But I did want to explain to you the importance of the term, the morning star of the Reformation. Because there was no light for 1,000 years. It was dark. It was satanic. And the gospel was quenched wherever it could be. But the morning star of the Reformation came out. And the glorious gospel came forth in all of its glory. And nations toppled because of it. So we'll stop there then.